Good evening. It is now 6:01 and welcome to the Community Development Committee meeting. Today's date is August 5th. August 5th. Today's meeting is recorded and will be available through the city's website. Thank you all for joining us. Do a quick roll call. Looks like everyone's accounted for. City Administrator Chambliss, City Clerk Dean, 3 committee members. Good. Okay. So with that said, we'll move. We now move to our first item of first item of regular business. Approve the agenda. Any questions on the agenda? Okay, if no questions, then we'll move forward with the agenda. Okay. So at this time, we'll allow for public comment. We will only allow for public comment here in person in the city council chambers. I don't see anyone. Need for public comment. Okay, so we'll consider public comment closed. For our next item of business, we'll move onto the agenda for the approval of the minutes dated July 15th, 2024. Any questions regarding the meeting minutes for July 15th? Okay. If there are no questions, then we will go ahead and adopt the meeting minutes for July 15th. Next item on the agenda is the affordable housing RFP and RFQ. And at this time, I would like to turn things over to Director Arteche.
Good evening, council members. Emily Arteche, Community Development Director. You may recall that this item was discussed at a recent roundtable with city council members. And after a long, full discussion, it was remanded back to this committee for further discussion, specifically a process, an outlining a process for an RFQ or an RFP. In your packets, you'll find that I provided some additional information on a request for qualifications or request for proposals. And again, the request for qualifications, as it states in this attachment, is a fairly simple way for consultants to respond to a project. It doesn't require significant amount of investment, time, or resources for consultants to answer, respond to. Rates are generally high, and because they do not take significant amounts of time to review, staff can quickly review and rank the applications received. In opposition to that, we could choose to move forward with a request for proposals. The main difference there is that agencies, i.e. the city, would need to write clear and accurate RFPs so that consultants' proposals may respond precisely to the city's needs. So that's a more in-depth, upfront process. So in a nutshell, we're here to talk about the pluses and minuses and hopefully come with a recommendation back to the city council. Our next roundtable discussion is the next council meeting on this. That's kind of strategically placed, so we don't lose our spot as the city's going to move into a series of budget discussions and roundtables. So we might not be able to get in with the council for quite some time if we don't have a recommendation after this meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about this. Hopefully we could go back to the staff memo, which also has some other agenda items on there related to this item. So it includes advantages of affordable housing, other considerations, resources, and then selection process. So, if there's time remaining, we could see if any of those need further discussion.
Let's open it up for questions. Any questions as it relates to the RFP, RFQ process. I'd like to make a comment, Director. Thank you so much for the additional resource on the American Planning Association. I had a chance to look through that, and it was pretty clear to me
Okay.
on the differences between them. I know that we got some background information from City Administrator Chambliss as well, some supplemental information and direction there. So thank you both. I think the prevailing wisdom was a preference on the RFQ. Please go ahead.
If I may, thank you, Chair. We did have David Lenahan actually also chime in, and one of the things he did mention was we could do an RFP, including a preamble, if you will, of an RFQ and describe, it would be a non-scoring item in that RFP, describe the types of affordable housing projects done, the number of units, the amount of time that it's taken, and any additional comments. My concern is we could go through this extensive, that may be an overstatement, a request for the qualifications, focus on that, and take two months in the process just to get through that, when we could just move to the RFP, give them some more time to respond, but make it a requirement that we understand their experience. And based on that, we could decipher whether they are suited to move forward with an RFP. And I would assume that those that do will be serious in submitting. And then we can focus on perhaps today of what is it that we'd like to see developed on that property, and go through a number of things. We could talk about height, parking requirements, our objectives, what we want to see in mixed development. Do we want to see it all at 60%, all at 80% AMI? How is that going to be scored, and kind of give the rest of the council some points of discussion?
Yes, Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, and reading through this, it sounds like the RFQ is particularly useful when you think there might be a larger pool of applicants to narrow down, well, I guess those applicants to the ones that can possibly do the work. Where what it sounds like from Councilmember Watton's prior work is that we may not be expecting a lot of applicants. And in that case, it could be sort of like a, well, why do the RFQ if we kind of have an idea of who might be interested anyway, and it's not a large pool? Could we just go straight to the request for proposals? And the second part of that was from Councilmember Watton's prior work, what it also sounded like was that those applicants wanted to know from us more of the specifics of what we were looking for, which again kind of is like, well, then maybe we do just go straight to the request for proposals. But I also recall other wisdom from staff pointing the other direction as well. To me, it's sort of like a 6 1/2 does of the other. I just kind of want to get this going. I guess the question would be, based on that information, that we're not expecting to have a whole lot of proposals. It didn't seem like that from Councilmember Watton's work, and those that we do know that are interested are looking for more information of what exactly we're looking for. Not exact, that's perhaps too precise a term, but they want more detail rather than just a, hey, who wants to go put up some affordable housing? They want more than that. What would be the wisdom for choosing an RFQ versus an RFP, or is an RFP fine? I guess I'm asking is staff, is there a good reason to go for RFQ versus RFP?
Mike has his hand up. Go ahead, City Administrator.
The only caution that that I have is, and this is from my career of second guessing decisions made. How did that get made and all
Right.
this? And the common theme among all of them were badly written RFPs.
Mhm.
And I just don't, I mean, Emily has the skills and the talent, but she's about to become a Department of One for a period of time. And there's no support for Emily to get an RFP and catch every detail and every single thing. So that's why I would lean towards RFQ if it was me making a decision,
Okay.
because
Staffing issues. Okay.
that way we don't have to catch it all.
I wholeheartedly agree with that comment. It would take a significant amount of time
Mm.
to lay out a well thought out RFP. It could be months before something could be articulated so clearly, put through legal, gone through the administration, was approved through the council. It could take a very long time. And an RFQ could go out fairly quickly.
Hold to that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yes,
Um,
Councilmember Johnson.
Okay, so if we did an RFQ first, to kind of cover that gap of time to keep the ball rolling, show that we're still interested in this project, let these potential applicants know that we're serious about the project. Is there a way to say, and we're also in the process of drafting an RFP, so that they know that more information is coming? Is that a thing?
You don't want to get somebody's hopes up.
Well, I mean, normally what you would do is go through your RFQ and you're gonna enter into a contract with the best qualified person. And then they're going to draft the proposal and present it to you. And you've already selected the best qualified person to do that work. So it kind of is like that without being like that.
Okay.
And you're going to see a proposal. Just because you do an RFQ doesn't make the decision. We're marching that way, and that's what we're doing.
I wholeheartedly agree with City Administrator Chambliss.
I'll just make a point here. I like where Councilmember Watt is coming from and his work that he's done on this. I was a part of that task force as well. The only apprehension I have, I'm listening to City Administrator Chambliss and of course you, Director. The apprehension that I have is kind of the second sentence here under the RFP. So RFP should describe the scope of work for the project at hand, scope of work for project at hand, and the consultant services needed. This is a very broad ask. There are a lot of details that are going to go into this. It's very dense. I would be fearful that maybe we forget something.
I think it is. I think you need to keep it broad and allow the creativity, to flow. And we're not asking for much in return. We're just asking for their qualifications. So maybe we share the parcel number, we share the size of the parcel, we share where the wetlands are. We give them factual information that we know to be
Okay.
true.
Sorry, I'll say this for the RFP process. I guess that's why I would lean more kind of towards the RFQ process. Yeah, that's my point. It's just that to me, it seems like it gets pretty specific. And I guess my point would be, well, some of these aspects, I mean, obviously with some of the work we've done, we'll know, but there are other elements in there that we're really not going to know yet.
That's okay.
Unless I'm off base. Here.
It's okay not to know.
Okay.
It is
Okay.
okay not to know.
It wouldn't impact
No.
the RFP process.
No, it wouldn't. It
Okay.
wouldn't impact. I mean, the more details will come out as this process of engaging with the right qualified applicant or
Okay.
whatever first company developer. You can suss out more of those details.
Oh, sorry, Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, I recall that North Bend had an RFQ example that I thought we saw recently, and that was like a one-pager, and that just seemed very broad. And if there's already been so much work that's gone into this, and what the potential applicants are saying is, we want more information about what council is really serious about, that perhaps there's kind of like a threading the needle that we could do where it's an RFQ, but maybe it's more than a splash page with a nice picture. It's got a few more specifics that we've been talking about over the last year or two about what council is really serious about. So maybe it's a lot less work than a full-blown request for proposal, but it's more specific than that example.
Oh, sorry, Councilmember Watton.
Just as a follow-up is actually it's an RFP that North Bend issued, and I've got it pulled up here, but and
Don't do all
glad to
this.
share it. So they issued the RFP June 3rd. They had a follow-up meeting June 24th, so 3 weeks later. And then the proposals came back due August 2nd. So it was about a 2-month turnaround, and they'll be evaluating it later this month and then make their final selection somewhere around the end of the year. So it's about a 6-month process that they're going through. And you're right, it's rather broad, but what's different about it is it's a rectangular or square property, this level, whereas this one has more environmental concerns, I guess, slope and there's some other technical words that we don't use in banking typically. The one we do use is money. How much does it cost? This one's not as straightforward as the property that North Bend is looking at. There's a little more complexity, especially in the engineering side of things, and how to deal with the both water runoff and how to get water to there and sewer that needs to be possibly pumped up. So there's some complexity to it. So that's where maybe the request for qualifications, have you done something this challenging, or make it as broad as of an RFP that North Bend did and said, okay, these are the parameters that we're trying to hit. We're trying to hit, the more 50%, the more 60% AMI, the more creative you are, the higher you'll be scored. Because the ultimate goal is to have as many affordable units, that being, under 80% and under of affordable units developed on this, since it's city owned. And then the next question is, do we want to own the land? Do we want to lease the land? Do we want to give the rights to the land to whomever the developer is? And those are some bigger issues. So I guess I would agree with the fact that we need to know that whomever is going to build these units is definitely qualified in our eyes, that we feel comfortable with. And does it give us an opportunity to separate them in two piles, one that needs a little bit more investigating, and the other one is, yeah, they've done this before, so we're fairly confident. And then the next thing, are we getting highest and best use in the eyes of the city trying to achieve affordable housing?
And we could dedicate CD meeting time to reviewing some, qualifications. And then, I would even say if we come down to one or two, we invite them in and we interview them. And make a selection there, because you're right, everything you said, you'd have to feel very comfortable moving forward with the final candidate.
So maybe the selection process is a little more fluid, because it's easy to think, okay, it's A, B, C, and we have to go through this. But the other feedback I've gotten from one of the developers, and the longer that you give us to go through this exercise, because one, we have to go out and find the financing. Two is we already have projects in the works, and it may be, we may want it done in a year and a half, and their reality is we'd like to have it on a schedule somewhere around 3 to 5 years, and we'd be more interested once we get the other projects done, because this is not going to be their only project. And then the last one, and that's how it's managed, and I think that's probably a bigger concern to the council, is what kind of oversight do the city have as far as, we don't want to do the oversight, but we want to make sure that whomever is the developer, they're responsible and that they manage properties well. And that's kind of gets back to the request for qualifications. I guess my thing is, can we build that all into one and be able to be a little more flexible in how we evaluate? Or do we really want to vet these? And I think some of it's going to be the interest of time. The longer and more drawn out it becomes, it may discourage some from being involved where we really want people developing this that are true partners to the city. So that's just my thought.
But that 3 to 5 year window may be nicely timed with the submittal of some of those affordable housing grants that you and I have been talking about
Right.
at the Department of Commerce. So they're giving money to cities to build and do construction.
The more runway we have, the better.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that idea.
Chair, I believe Councilmember.
Oh, I'm
Johnson.
sorry.
That's okay.
Engrossed in the discussion. Sorry,
Yeah.
Councilmember Johnson.
So I just went back to, I can't find it here. Back to the document that we got from Councilmember Watton.
Mhm.
It links to the website, which has more information. And then in the website, there's another link that goes to the full RFQ, which is 5 pages long. So I just now I'm pulling that up. And what I was wondering about is, to what degree did what I was seeing match up with the description of RFPs from what's the name of the document we were just looking at here? The American Planning Association. How does that line up? It seems like there's an awful lot of stuff missing. But in the 5-page thing, that's where it breaks down eligibility and response requirements, scoring, evaluation, selection, all that stuff. So it is in there. It's just a few steps down the road. And looking at this, I can see how this
for
would
the
be
for the RFP.
Yeah, for an RFP. Yeah. So there is the full one in there. It's just a few links away.
Okay.
But yeah, I could definitely see how this does add up to a significant amount of work that could take a couple of months to draft all of this up, potentially. So yeah, I again kind of fall into this. Can we split the difference and have something that isn't quite as detailed, so that we can get the ball rolling, especially with our staffing limitations, keeping that
Right.
at the forefront. And if what that means, having something similar but pared down to some degree, means that it fits into technically being an RFQ, fine. If having that fits into the definition of being an RFP, fine. It doesn't sound like that's really the big deal. It's what we actually call it. To me, what seems to be the bigger issue is what's the actual product?
And the man hours that go into it.
Right. And what are we actually getting out of this? So if having something pared down means that by definition, it's not a request for proposals, it's a request for qualifications, cool, let's do that. If you could call that an RFP and that has some benefit to it, cool, let's do that. So that'd be a question, I guess, more to
we
staff.
could get an RFQ out fairly quickly. We have a list of 50 people that I shared with some of the council members. It could have some simple statements in there about, what the intent is, and we could see who responds by a given date. Imagine that they'll be submitting to maybe a special email address. We can look at their qualifications, and then we can start making some selections and start ranking them. We'll have to come up with a way to rank them, and then, figure out who we want to bring in to an interview, and ultimately contract with. And then from there, we could start sharing the details about, it's got to have X amount of percentage at what AMI, it's got to be open to workforce housing folks. It's got to be an extension of Gravenstein Drive. It's
You gotta have this much parking.
it's in the MU zone, so it has a lot of flexibility, for all of those things, including height and So those are all creative, decisions that are made. They're not roadblocks. We're not prescribing the details of exactly what it would have to look like. I think we could even give a range for how many units we want to have. Do we want to have micro units? Do we want to have 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom? Are they for sale? Are they for rent? Is there priority for hospital, teaching, retail, casino workers? I think all of those are all just ripe for discussion once we find the right person that we want to work with.
Absolutely. So kind of given that format, director, kind of, looking at the RFP, but keeping it fairly broad, what do you think maybe,
You just said RFP. Did you mean RFQ?
well, no, kind of looking at an RFP, an actual RFP with that format, kind of what Councilmember Johnson mentioned.
I am not prepared right now to do like scoring and criteria and all of that. I mean, that I would say you'd have to give me at least 6 months to put something together and make a quality document that was vetted internally through legal.
Yeah.
all of that.
Understood. I mean, and sorry, I wanted to get down to kind of brass tacks there and ask that question. So with that said, I think we're looking at kind of more detailed RFQ. Yes, Councilmember Watt.
So my one thing that's in the back of my mind, and that is, what's the consideration? What are we offering whomever's going to be bidding on this RFQ? I think we need to put some parameters, as Director Arteche mentioned, building height. I mean, we're willing to go to 5 stories. Parking requirements, 1 parking stall per bedroom, and studio and wet bedroom are considered 1. AMI, that we desire to have a mix of AMI levels. The other one would be desired amenities. What amenities would you build into this that meets the needs of the potential residents? And then some other things as far as what is the city willing to help out with? We do have the funds set aside, is, what's kind of the carrot and pre-development sort of funding that we could provide the victor to all this.
I like that, the victor. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, so in that case, I think that all sounds like things we can put into an RFQ. The staff can draft up an RFQ for us. We can look at it and say, hey, we feel like it's missing this thing. Here's what we as a committee think that we should be willing to commit to in terms of height. Let's put that in there. And then we go to council and council says, no, we do not want to go that high. Okay, fine. Then we were outvoted 4-3.
Right.
But we could have those kinds of things without having to get into the specifics of how they would be scored based on, oh, you're willing to have this many units, which gets you this many points and that many points. Because we can't be arbitrary and, is it capricious? Is that the right word about it?
I
We
would
can't
say
just
so.
we can't just be like, how about 20 points for this?
Yeah.
And just make it up off the top of our heads, right? We have to have a reason. Why is it that score? We have to be able to justify it. And I think that is, that's what we lean on staff for, is to do that kind of work. And that's going to take time to figure out.
With the request for qualifications, we're not scoring.
No, I'm talking about for proposal.
Oh,
Yeah, for RFP.
You said RFQ, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, if we did an RFP though,
Yeah.
taking all that time, right, to come up with all that scoring and stuff, that's the kind of thing that I imagine not having the staff time for. But yes, for an RFQ, just giving sort of the general lay of the land of here's what we're thinking, put in as many detail, add them in as staff gives us this. We say,
yeah,
"Hey,
once you
we wanna do
find,
this, we
once
wanna
you
do
find the
this."
developer or the proponent for this project, they will meet all of your wildest dreams. And they will meet your demands. And I would say with the zone that this is in, there's really, plenty of opportunity for creativity. And I would say, considering it's so low, maybe you don't say 5 feet, 5 stories. Maybe you don't say that. Maybe, by the time you raise it up to the parkway, it's bigger than that. I mean, there's
A lot of different options. Yeah.
That's at
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Johnson.
That said, making it clear to a developer that we are willing to go higher than what is whatever the exact number of feet is that's in the code.
I wouldn't even spit that out to start with.
Really?
It's a limitation, yeah.
Yeah.
To say that we're willing to go above that?
Yeah, they're just gonna, all this 50, group of 50 plus are
Mm-hmm.
gonna do is gonna say, I am jazzed about working in Snoqualmie on an affordable housing project. I want to get my qualifications in.
Okay.
And, either they're juiced up and amped up, ready to go, or they're not.
Okay.
And from there, it's all negotiations. It's all like, we'd like this. What do you
Yeah.
think about that? We'd
Yeah.
like that. What do you
That
think about
makes
that? They're
sense.
taking notes. They're sketching. They're doing all this stuff. It's a very creative, fluid process.
And that's the difference between the RFP and the RFQ. The RFQ is more of a general, hey, what are your qualifications? Here's what essentially we're looking to build. Where, what are your qualifications to do that? In
Yeah,
essence,
and
right?
you're really looking for the juiced up, amped up
Right.
person that's going to give us their all
Right.
on this, somebody that wants to be showcased in this city. And that's what this is. It's an opportunity for them.
I just one question for you, Director. I think kind of in the essence of time and trying to, move this development forward, there's seemingly kind of a question that keeps toggling back and forth of, well, can we add more specific items to the RFQ, kind of tailoring it like an RFP to save time? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I mean, again, if we're just looking for qualifications, putting in specifics about numbers of stories or number of parking and, all of that, it really won't make a difference because they're not going to be spending time designing something. They're just going to be submitting their qualifications to design something, knowing that they could do whatever you want them to do.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, we could put, hey, this is a project for affordable housing. Yes, we have some extra money to contribute to it besides the land. Yes, this will help us meet our statewide mandates and our King County, projected affordable need. We could put things like that in there, but to kind of cramp it down and put in, design requirements and design review requirements, those kinds of things, won't make a difference because all we're asking for them is just to submit that they are the best qualified person to do the job.
Okay. Thank you very much, Director.
Thank you.
So my colleagues here, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Councilmember Johnson, go ahead.
So it sounds like staff would be willing to draft up an RFQ and present it to us in some time in the foreseeable future. And then at that point, we would review it, kind of say, okay, we as a committee think we like this part, don't like this part, add this, scratch that, etc. And then forward that along to council. Does that sound good to staff?
Any thoughts? Oh, sorry, Director.
Can I ask one question,
Mhm.
Chair?
Yes.
Washington, what would you like to do for the roundtable?
When's the
Well,
next roundtable?
yeah, I think, so are we thinking the roundtable would be the one and only council meeting in August? Is that the thought? Is that the 12th?
Pardon?
When is the next council meeting? Is it the 12th? Okay, so this would be part of that roundtable on the 12th potentially, correct, Director?
I'm thinking it would be best for staff to come back to CD, to
Okay.
show you a draft.
Okay,
That being said, I don't know how quickly we could get back to council. Maybe this goes back to council at a regular scheduled council meeting as an
Okay.
item for discussion.
okay,
And that your recommendation, maybe on an agenda bill, could be that you've made a motion to move forward with an RFQ and we attach the RFQ.
okay. I like that
That would be
idea.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, I like that idea. And sorry, there's just a lot of excitement of,
Yeah.
yeah,
it is.
when can we move this
I
to
think
the
there-
council?
I am
So,
very excited about it. I can't tell you how gratified I am to see the council move forward with this project, not just because it's a good thing, not just that it could bring a lot of good to the city and make a lot of people happy, but I have got to find concrete examples of how we, as a city, as a community, are going to meet state mandate, county mandates. And it gets really, really difficult to, put in a benchmark for what is that we can do and what we plan to do, and check back with us in 5 years and see how well did we do. And it gives me a lot of satisfaction to know I've got a good concrete example that is going to be meaningful, not just a paper exercise.
No, I really appreciate that, Director Artech. And I know that there are a lot of fluid details that go into this that you manage on a daily, a weekly, a monthly basis. So excellent job. Thank you so much. I like that. I like taking a look at a future working draft and potentially maybe having it in one of the council meetings, because we only have one council meeting in August. So maybe one of the council meetings in September potentially.
Mhm. Mhm.
See a lot of head nodding. Okay.
Great.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's the direction that we
Fab.
should move in. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
All that.
Yay, round of applause. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. Thank you for your hard work, Director.
Thank you.
Okay. Any follow-up discussion there? Okay. Well, let's see. The cheat sheet. Okay, so that was the primary agenda item that we had for this evening. And if there's no further business before the commission, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Zach?
All right, we are adjourned at 6:38 p.m.
Excellent.
Thank you.